Well, back to one of our top stories today. The top U.S. military commander in the Pacific said that North Korea's pursuit of nuclear weapons, well, they already have nuclear weapons, but their pursuit of what they're doing right now is a clear and direct threat to the United States and our allies in the region. That region, a hotbed of emerging and established nuclear powers, along with others eager to really join the nuclear club. North Korea has been right there providing critical help for others and their nuclear programs, causing some mischief in the Middle East. We've talked a little bit about this before, sharing nuclear plans with Syria, a proxy of Iran, and reportedly allowing Iranian experts to observe their nuclear tests in North Korea just a few weeks ago. This developing story in North Korea is not just about one country, but about the region as a whole and our approach to it. And taking it one step further, one can also argue it's not just about the region, but the precedent it sets globally. Joining us now, Mark Dubowitz, Executive Director of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and Gordon Chang, author of Nuclear Showdown, North Korea Takes on the World. An appropriate title, Gordon, and we'll start with you. Why is this story in North Korea of recent weeks so significant for the region as a whole?
It's not just North Korea. This is also Iran, because Iran and North Korea have had joint missile and nuclear weapons development program, and behind all of them is China. Just a few hours ago, People's Daily, the Communist Party's flagship publication, issued a commentary severely attacking the United States. You know, Chinese leader Xi Jinping on Sunday made these comments that no one should be allowed to roil the region and even the world for selfish gain, and everybody interpreted that to be an attack on North Korea. Well, People's Daily, just a few hours ago, made it clear that Xi Jinping was directing his remarks against the United States, not against North Korea. So this is not just one country, not just two countries. This is three countries: China, Iran, and North Korea.
Mark, what do you make of it? The significance of the story in North Korea, not only what it means for the region, but for other places like Iran.
Well, Jenna, I think that North Korea is Exhibit A about what happens when a rogue regime, by the way, with a bankrupt economy and a bankrupt ideology, gains nuclear weapons, advanced ballistic missile technology, and threatens the United States, threatens the world. If you don't like North Korea, you're going to hate Iran, because Iran is an energy superpower with an ideology that appeals to tens of millions of the world's faithful. And they are an aggressive power. They want to seek regional and global hegemony. And so an Iran that is dashing to an undetectable nuclear breakout in 15 months suggests that we're going to be facing an even more profound national security challenge in the coming year.
So if what we're witnessing right now, Mark, is somehow a case study for what we might see for Iran, what do we do about it?
Well, we have to stop Iran from developing nuclear weapons. There's no doubt about it. I mean, Iran, again, in 15 months will have undetectable breakout. We've tried sanctions to put punishing economic pressure on this regime. It hasn't cracked the nuclear will of Ali Khamenei. We've tried diplomacy. We've had 5 rounds of diplomatic negotiations that have gone nowhere. And this Iranian regime seems uninterested in a diplomatic deal, and is learning from its North Korean partner, as Gordon said, that you can actually develop nuclear weapons. You can do so in an undetectable way. You can violate your obligations under the NPT, and you will pay no price for it, and you'll get support from Beijing as your closest ally.
Well, and Gordon, we've tried all that Mark has just said with North Korea. We tried paying North Korea. We've now said we're not going to do certain missile tests because we don't want to provoke North Korea. In many ways, some could describe it as a policy of containment, just keeping North Korea at bay so that they don't bother us. How do we change that? How do we change this cycle of seeing North Korea act out, engage other enemies, and really disrupt the region?
Well, I think there are two things. First of all, South Korea can close that Kaesong industrial complex, which has provided a lifeline of economic support to North Korea. But more important, we need to talk to the Chinese. We need to use our economic leverage and basically say to the Chinese, you can be friends with North Korea, you can be friends with the United States, but not both at the same time. A fragile Chinese economy is now more reliant on the United States. That gives us a leverage that we should be using, because if we don't use that, we know what's going to happen. North Korea is going to end up with a fearsome nuclear arsenal. They're going to have long-range ballistic missiles, and every spring there's going to be a Cuban Missile Crisis.
Mark, isn't China causing mischief in Iran right now, too, with the sanctions? I mean, China, it sounds like, is a problem with North Korea, but You know what's going on in Iran. What is China doing with Iran right now?
Well, China has been a country that has provided Iran with parts and components for its nuclear program, for its ballistic missile program. State-owned Chinese companies for years were assisting the Iranians. Now Chinese middlemen, many of them with links to the Chinese government, are facilitating that proliferation-related trade. The Chinese have resisted punishing economic sanctions at the UN Security Council. They've really tried to protect their Iranian ally, on whom they depend for a fairly large percentage of their oil imports. So I think, again, China's a problem in North Korea, China's a problem in Iran. The message to Beijing has got to be, you are helping other countries go nuclear. And in fact, South Korea and Japan are going to go nuclear unless you solve the North Korean problem. And Saudi Arabia and Turkey and other Middle Eastern countries are going to go nuclear unless you solve the Iranian problem. You're going to have a world with nukes, every one of these countries on a hair trigger, and the potential for a nuclear holocaust.
I have a quick final question for you guys, but I'm going to take a quick commercial break. I have two final questions. One of them is, if you solve the China problem, does North Korea and Iran as problems go away? The second one is, there is a question from the Wall Street Journal about whether or not in our history right now we are witnessing the greatest proliferation of the atomic age that we'll ever experience in a lifetime. Some serious questions. We'll be right back after a commercial break with more. Back with us, Gordon Chang and Mark Dubowitz, talking a little bit about North Korea and Iran. Gentlemen, I'd like to restart with this quote from the Wall Street Journal today, a big editorial about what's happening in the world overall, and this is what the Wall Street Journal says. The world can see the United States has acquiesced in North Korea's weapons program and lacks the will to stop Iran. It can see the U.S. is shrinking its own nuclear capacity through arms control, even as a rogue threat grows. Above all, the world can hear Mr. Obama declare for domestic American audiences that the tide of war is receding, despite the growing evidence of the contrary. On present trend, the president, who promised to rid the world of nuclear weapons, is setting the stage for their greatest proliferation since the dawn of the atomic age. Now, Iran and North Korea have been a bipartisan problem for many administrations, whether you're Republican or Democrat. The question is, how do we stop proliferation from happening? Gordon, your thoughts first, and then Mark will get yours.
I think the one thing that we've really got to do is to separate Beijing from Pyongyang, because China supplies them with 90% of their oil, 80% of the consumer goods, 45% of the food, most of that on concessionary terms. Beijing is the only supporter of North Korea now in international councils like the Security Council. And so I think that clearly we've got to get rid of China. To do that, though, we've got to have different policies, because the policies that we've employed since the beginning of the Bush administration just clearly have not worked. We have tried to put China at the center of the global efforts to get North Korea to disarm. And so clearly North Korea has not only, during that time, has not only gotten long-range ballistic missiles, but nuclear weapons as well. We have to use our economic leverage, and we have plenty of it. The people in Washington, though, don't want to use it. And if we don't use it, it's just going to be disaster for everyone.
Mark?
Well, I think on the North Korean side, I think the Chinese obviously have been very close allies with North Korea for years. But I think what they are really concerned about is the potential for a nuclear-armed South Korea and a nuclear-armed Japan. Now, I'm not suggesting that we encourage proliferation in Asia, but I think the Japanese and the South Koreans may make their own calculation that a nuclear-armed North Korea is becoming so dangerous that they can't rely on an American nuclear umbrella, and they may break out to nuclear weapons. I think on the Middle Eastern side, with respect to Iran, look, there's only one answer there. The answer is to stop Iran from achieving undetectable breakout capability and stop Iran from developing an undetectable nuclear weapon. We've tried sanctions, we're trying diplomacy, we've got to massively intensify the pressure on this regime, but within about 6 to 8 months, that time is beginning to run out. As we approach undetectable breakout, this president needs to send a message that he will use military force to blow up Iran's nuclear weapons capability, and he needs to make that message clear and unambiguous.
Mark, Gordon, certainly a lot to talk about. Great to have both of your thoughts today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, Jenna.
Thank you.